Fiance tried to trap me with a shady contract before wedding, so I exposed him at the altar and tore it up in his face. My parents were rather worried and they wanted me to settle down. This is how it all started. My dad, mom, and their two best friends grew up together. My dad and mom fell in love and got married. And so did their two best friends, Clara and Dave. Eventually, their son, Asher, and I became really great friends. After facing a couple of messy relationships, Asher's parents and mine tried to convince Asher and me to get married. Asher seemed rather happy about it and I decided that I'd make it work as well. We were friends after all. We dated for a while and arranged to get married. With all the preparations underway, I was quite happy to be marrying my best friend and I guess that so was he. But there were times that I had to go shopping all alone for the props and the venue of our wedding. He couldn't accompany me even for the cake selection because he had work and needed to go back to the office, or at least that's what he told me. But little did I know what he was cooking up behind my back. The bachelorette party had passed and it was the night before the wedding. He called me up and asked me to meet up with him at a cafe near the wedding venue. He placed something that looked like a contract before me. He told me to take my time to read it and sign it. He hardly gave me the time to run through it. He just got up, gave me a smile, and left to go back to his motel room. I read all the conditions grimly and took the said contract back to the motel room that I shared with my friends. I just hid it away in my bag and looked at the wedding dress that was hung inside the cabinet. The next day, slipping into the dress, I felt anxious and kept rethinking if this was what I really wanted. They helped me put my veil on and I could feel the light fabric getting heavier on my head. I told everybody that I needed a few moments alone with my best friend, Leah. They left the room and shut the door behind them. I picked out the sheet of contract and gave it to her. She looked a little confused, taking it from my hands. I watched her expression change from confusion to shock to anger. I teared up and wanted to cry. I didn't know how I was going to break this to my family. His parents are going to be so heartbroken. Leah fumed and exclaimed to me, "That bastard. How dare he? I'm going to tell your mom." I shook my head and told her to calm down. She shook her head and told me that he deserves public recognition for this work of a contract. So I nodded my head. And it was time to walk down the aisle. I remember smiling at my father, who still thinks he's giving me away to a good man. Little did he know. My nerves racked up as I nodded at Leah, who was also my maid of honor. The groom, Asher, looked rather happy and grinned at me from across the hall. My father walked me down and led me to the groom. Leah approached me and placed the contract in my hand. Asher looked rather horrified at the contract in my hand and looked around as if to make sure nobody was noticing. He looked at me with a warning to hide the papers. My parents, relatives, the groom's friends, and my friends looked rather confused looking at the sheets in my hand. I spoke up and called for everybody's attention. The priest looked puzzled as well. I set off like this. "So, my fiancé Asher here wanted me to sign this prenuptial contract. What are you doing?" Asher interrupted me. I guessed that he was terrified. I ignored him. Here are the conditions that he wanted me to sign on. The first one entails that 65% of everything that I earn can be claimed by him in case we separate. 2. I must pledge that I would not claim any of his wealth or property earned during this time. 3. If we have any kids in the future, I must take sole custody of our children on separation. He should not be expected to pay child support. 4. On the occasion of separation, the separation must be mutual, which means, I cannot fight in court for any sort of injustice or domestic abuse. We can only separate on his terms, I concluded. Asher looked red in the face and I just could not believe that I had been friends with someone like him. But I felt pure hate towards him and tore up the papers only to throw them on his face. My parents looked pale and I could understand why. I had just dodged the bullet of an abusive marriage. I reached back and took off my veil. I wasn't about to go through with this wedding. Asher's father looked furious and clasped his collar. He kept asking him over and over again why he would do that. His mother looked upset and came over to me as if to comfort me. My father looked livid and told everybody to go home. He announced that the wedding was off. He even respectfully led the priest out. Asher's parents had their head bowed down towards me and tried to apologize. I shook my head and told them that it wasn't their fault. Asher still didn't learn his lesson. He went on to yell at me, "Why would you embarrass my parents and me before so many people? You could have told me that you weren't fine with those terms." His father threw a tight slap across his face and I gasped at the situation. His father went on to yell profanities at Asher. I then slowly took off my heels and calmly made my way back to the dressing room. Leah helped me out of my gown and I slipped into more comfortable clothes. Am I the a-hole for exposing him like this? Should I have maybe talked to his parents instead? Update 1, it's been a few days and all the food ordered for the wedding was laying around. Asher's mother took up an initiative to help us package and distribute all the food to the homeless. It was a lot of money wasted, but I wasn't going to marry again soon. So, I'd rather donate the bulk of the cake and everything. But we returned the unopened wine bottles to the agency and they luckily took them back. But they didn't pay back the entire amount and took away some percentage. Asher went away to Bali all alone, taking the ticket which was meant for our honeymoon. I didn't care, rather I demanded the money back for his ticket and his father returned the money on his behalf. Everybody's been so down and upset about the events that transpired. I know that I could have talked to his parents before bombarding them at the wedding. I later apologized to his mother. She said that I could have spoken to her instead of ruining their family reputation. She looked so upset and I regretted my actions. Clara is very sweet and she only wants the best for all of us. A lot of you all have been telling me that it was not right on my part to have created such a scene at the wedding. Update 2. So, something unexpected happened last day. I got a call from my ex. What he told me not only shocked me, it had me thinking what I could do about it. Since I had practically ruined Asher's name before so many others, he wanted to ruin mine somehow. My ex told me that Asher had rung him up to discuss how I always ruined relationships. He tried to make my ex agree that I needed to be taught a lesson and also attempted to convince him to expose my ugly side. It seems that he wanted my ex to expose our chats that could possibly show that I was a bad person. It was to switch up the situation. To make it seem as if I was dangerous and that his contract was his attempt to safeguard himself. He also revealed that it had been a few days and maybe people just forgot what I voiced as the contract conditions. Since the contract was torn, nobody has a chance to prove that those were the conditions. In short, he wanted to convince my ex to have his revenge, but my ex and I had separated on a common understanding. We could be called as friends even though we hardly contact each other. So, he let me know what he was trying to do. I've decided to approach his parents regarding this. I'll update how it goes. Update 3. So, last day, I visited his parents and spoke to them about Asher's doings. To say the least, things had blown out of control. His parents practically disowned him while I was still there after explaining the situation to them. They were extremely upset and told him to pack up his things. I tried to beg them not to do that and Asher tried to apologize. He sincerely looked at me and said sorry. He explained that my ex had warned him against doing something like that. He said that he was only trying to fix his situation, but it turned out like this. He also confessed how he could never look at people in the eye because of his deed. I told his parents to forgive him and begged them not to throw him out. They reluctantly complied. Asher told me that he'd take a few more years to grow a little before getting married. He truly regretted the contract. I just nodded at him, although we both knew what he did was unforgivable. He said that he did so under the influence of one of his friends' advice. But he now cut his friendship with him because that so-called friend is nothing but trouble. My friend is getting married and asked me to be the matron of honor. She has a maid of honor as well. A few weeks ago, she mentioned wanting a bridal shower. I looked into options and found a good one, $500 for an afternoon tea-style shower that included the space, food/drinks and desserts. Bride and maid of honor said they liked the idea, so I inquired with the venue. The plan was for me and the maid of honor to split the cost. Today I received a text from maid of honor saying that her and the bride actually planned the shower between the two of them, and that bride has now decided she would like her shower to be at a different venue that she, bride, has found and selected, and that she, bride, is requesting we pay for it. Maid of honor then let me know that the venue is $800, not including food, drinks, decor, or anything else, and that we need to find and pay for those things too. Being in the wedding industry, I know how much vendors cost, and $800 plus hundreds in other expenses is not financially feasible for me right now. I mentioned that traditionally showers are thrown by the mother of the bride, so maybe the bride's mom can join the planning and contribute to the cost. Maid of honor then said that the bride does not want her mom to pay for it, as mom is already paying for a lot of the wedding. I replied to maid of honor saying that although it's more than I had anticipated spending, I was happy to pay for a portion of the venue, but that I need to know her plans for food, drinks, and rentals since they had planned this without my input or opinion, and that I don't think I will be able to contribute more than what the venue costs. I'm assuming maid of honor then told the bride what I said, because I receive a text from the bride a few minutes later saying that I need to stop the drama, stop being selfish and realize this wedding is about her and not me, and my favorite part, that she finds it unfair that after seeing the things I buy for myself on social media, that it's weird that I don't want to spend money on her wedding. That she never asks anything of me, so it's outrageous that I don't want to do this for her. To be clear, I don't know what she's talking about with social media. I don't post things I buy. I have spent money on her wedding, and agreed to spend even more. All I said was that I couldn't go much farther than the cost of the venue, that I had no part in selecting, and would like to know how much more I'm expected to invest in this. I know when you agree to be a bridal party member, there are financial commitments, and I have happily paid for part of the bride's bachelorette, an engagement gift, my bridesmaid gown, hair/makeup for the wedding day, and booked my travel for her out-of-town wedding. That's expected. But this bridal shower thing seems out of line to me. Conversation ended with the bride telling me not to speak to her. Don't know if she means for now or forever and that I should assume I'm kicked out. Either way, super curious if I'm the a-hole. My husband, 61 male, and I, 57 female, have 3 children: Brad, 24 female to male, Dana, 21 female, and Lisa, 19 female. Brad came out to us at 16 as trans. We told him we loved him, asked him how he wanted us to refer to him, and our entire family supported him. He wanted to be our son, Brad, Dana and Lisa's brother, and nephew and grandson to other relatives. Everyone in our family has been nothing but supportive and embracing of his identity from day one. His father, my husband, took him to Pride for many years and spent the whole day with him. Recently, Brad wrote a play for a local theater group all about his experience as a transman. He told us we didn't have to attend, but of course we got tickets for opening night for all 4 of us. We were surprised to see 2 characters in the play, Deborah and Irving, where our names are Brenda and Isaac. They are very obviously the parents of the main character. Upon Brad's coming out, they are devastated, use several slurs, and Irving becomes angry that his beautiful girl wants to mutilate herself. They keep using Brad's dead name and referring to him as their daughter. They try to put Brad into a mental hospital and he leaves home. These characters are not seen again for the rest of the play. It was billed as an autobiographical account of his life so far. At the end, several people came up to us and asked what made us finally accept our son. Others shot us dirty looks and refused to acknowledge us otherwise. I approached Brad after and asked why he had done this. He tried to deflect, saying that it was meant to be a story. When I pointed out that in several places it was said to be autobiographical, he replied that I had no idea what it was like to be him growing up and it was his story to tell. When I was asked about it again, I informed the person that the story was fictional, never happened, and that we had been nothing but supportive of Brad from day one. I later posted publicly on Facebook that Brad's play was fictional, had no basis in actual events, and that we had always loved our son for who he is. Family members who know the situation have agreed that the play has no basis in reality and I was right to defend my family. Brad has messaged me demanding I take the post down, saying that the play was not meant to be literal, he didn't even want us to come, that I was conflating myself with a fictional character, and anybody who knows me knows the truth. I feel embarrassed, but I am wondering if I am making too much of this because nobody who matters believes it. Am I the a-hole?